Welcome to For the Love of Books, a podcast by Lanarkshire Libraries.
Hi everyone, welcome back to the Lanarkshire Libraries podcast For the Love of Books. My name is Chris Wilson, the E-Services Librarian, and today I am joined with two of our librarians, Thomas Clark from Coatbridge and Drew Feeney from Airdrie Library. So welcome to the podcast, guys.
Hi Chris. Hi Thomas.
Chris.
Drew, you've been here before and done it, but Thomas, this is your debut on the podcast. Are you nervous?
I'm very excited. I'm a long-time listener, a big long-time fan. Really looking forward to it, Chris.
Fantastic, but you've got the easy job today, because what we're actually going to do today is that Thomas put together a quiz for World Book Night, and we thought we'd bring a shortened version to the podcast, and basically give you a chance to kind of beat the librarians in a literary quiz. So myself and Drew are going to try and answer some of the questions that Thomas put together, and you guys can listen along and see how you scored in comparison to us. So Thomas, you've got the easy job in terms of you just have to ask us the questions. It's me and Drew that are under the spotlight of trying to prove that we know something about books, which may be a challenge. We'll see how that goes. If you're listening and need a little bit of time to think about your answer, you could pause the podcast and kind of things like that. And of course, you could also let us know how you get on our social media afterwards as well. So feel free to kind of let us know. But without further ado, Thomas, I think I will pass on to you for the hosting duties for this, and you can ask away with your questions, and we'll see how Drew and I get on.
All right,
I'm not going to admit. I'm going to admit I am slightly nervous. I hate quizzes.
I am too. I'm not necessarily even sure the level that we're at here, Thomas. Are we at a university challenge level? Is that what we're kind of talking about here?
You'll find out, Drew. You'll find out.
Oh no! The pressure is on.
Right, so just like everybody else at home, just like you were saying, Chris, I'll give you a couple of minutes to confer in between each question, so you can talk it out with each other, and if you come to a conclusion jointly about the answer, brilliant. If you have got your own answer and you just can't agree, fine, that's good as well. So the first question is going to be a question about crime and mystery.
Mm-hmm.
The question's this: which seminal Scottish crime novel by William McIlvanney features on this year's World Book Night shortlist?
Oh dear! So we should have paid more attention to the book list, Drew.
Oh no, gosh, there's so many brilliant lists just now. What do you think, Chris? There's about 2 or 3 William McIlvanneys I kind of can think of, but it's only really the famous ones. I
don't know. I'm not a big one William McIlvanney books.
No.
I don't really know. The only one I think I can think of is the kind of, is it Laidlaw or something like that?
Yeah.
That's called.
Yeah.
So I think it might potentially be that, because that's the one I know.
Yeah, I was going to say there's Laidlaw. The other one is Docherty, but I think Laidlaw is the kind of crime one. Thomas, just to confirm, it's William McIlvanney and not Liam McIlvanney. It's William.
That's correct. Yeah.
William.
Absolutely right.
Okay, I think Laidlaw, Chris.
Are we going with Laidlaw?
I think so. I think that's the kind of obvious one. It probably, I mean, if it's on a list as well, it would have to be probably the biggest of them all, wouldn't it?
You think so? You think so?
Okay. Let's go with that then.
Okay, we're locking in Laidlaw then, I think, for this one.
All right then. Well, that was a good shout, Drew, because it hadn't occurred to me that, of course, William McIlvanney's son, is a pretty well-known crime writer in his own right, and a pretty good one as well. Yeah. But no, it's William McIlvanney we're thinking of, and you're absolutely right.
Yes.
The crime novel on the World Book Night Scottish list today, or this time around anyway, is Laidlaw.
Hurrah!
Fantastic.
Excellent.
Good start, Drew. Good start.
Thank you. Well done, Chris. Well done. Excellent. Off to a flyer.
Of course, that's the first trilogy of books, as you were, I think, alluding to, Drew. The first trilogy of books featuring Jack Laidlaw. Well, what trilogy? Knew that there's Ian Rankin's done one as well. So Laidlaw is the answer there.
Brilliant.
Right, good start. We'll move on to horror now. Horror. Which American Gothic fiction author wrote Interview with a Vampire?
Okay.
Do you remember that? Do you remember the film with that though as well?
I remember the movie with Brad Pitt.
Yeah. Tom Cruise as well.
Oh yeah, that's right. Tom Cruise was that too. Yeah,
he was the baddie.
That's right.
Any ideas, Chris? Now it's kind of. I think I might know this one. I think I might know this because there was a whole series of these books based around those characters. And Tom Cruise's character was called Lestat or something like that, and he was the sort of baddie. And I think the name that's jumping right into my head, see what you think, is Anne Rice.
That's the one that I had in my head as well, because that's pretty much the only kind of vampire-y novel person that I know other than Charlene Harris, and I don't think it was Charlene Harris that wrote that, because she wrote the True Blood books. So
That's right. That's right.
So yeah, I'm happy to go with that too, Drew.
Okay,
So,
well, we will then, Thomas. We'll lock in Anne Rice for Interview with the Vampire.
All right, then, well, you're absolutely right. There's a huge series of them, starting for Interview with the Vampire and going on through the Vampire, Lestat, and all the rest of it. And spot on, they were all written by Anne Rice.
Fantastic. I like the way that quite a lot of them seem to be set in like New Orleans, you know, and the kind of deep south and that. And I think that's where she lived as well. And it's very, it's the location is as much a part of the story as the characters in those sort of books. And I always wanted to kind of visit. I've never been to New Orleans, but always fancied it because of that.
Aye. No, you're absolutely right. Everything I know about New Orleans, I know through the film and the book, Interview with the Vampire.
Brilliant.
if you do ever visit, you just need to watch out for the vampires, Drew.
Exactly. It's the story of my life, Chris.
All right, Steinway Horror. Thomas Harris's best-selling 1988 novel, The Silence of the Lambs, was actually a sequel. What was the name of the first book in that series?
Oh, this is a sneaky one. Because do you have any ideas on this one, Chris?
The first thing that pops into my head is I want to say something like Headhunter, but I don't think it's Headhunter because that's the Joe Nesbo book, I'm sure, which is called Headhunter, but it's something kind of like that, I think.
Yeah, I know where you're coming from here, but Thomas, there's a sneaky bit here, isn't there? There's a sneaky bit because the film of this, now there was two versions of the film of this. The first one was it Manhunter? But that wasn't the name of the book. There was two versions of it. So so Silence of the Lambs was the sequel. So it must have been. I know this. It's not Hannibal because Hannibal was the one after it. It's I got it. Is it? Well, we go for Chris. I'm thinking Red Dragon.
Oh, do you know what? You just made me remember that I actually have, this is terrible, I can't actually think of the answer to this, because I actually have the trilogy book somewhere that I have, and I'm pretty sure it does have, it's definitely Dragon's definitely in the title. So
that must have been huge. It must have been a book.
It was
really
big, it was like a Bible. So, yeah. We'll go with that. I can't believe I completely forgot I actually owned that trilogy book. I don't even know if it is. It's probably put in a loft somewhere.
That was a really sneaky one, Thomas, if that is the answer, because there was two film versions of the same book, but they were called different things. That's right, isn't it? Do you want? Will we go for Red Dragon?
Yeah, go for it.
Red Dragon, then.
There was two film versions of that book. You're absolutely right, Drew. And the first one was called Manhunter, and it was made before Silence of the Lambs, and it starred our very own Brian Cox as Hannibal Lecter. And it's actually a really good film, believe it or not, very different. The Silence of the Lambs, but you're right, the book itself and the subsequent remake of the film was called Red Dragon.
Brilliant.
Edward Norris, I'm thinking.
It was he was one of the characters, wasn't he? Was Anthony Hopkins Lecter in the remake and the second one? That's right. But he had to play his younger self, but effectively in a film that came after the one that made him famous.
Absolutely right.
Very confusing.
And it's definitely not Headhunter. I'm pretty sure that is a Joe Nesbo book, so absolutely nothing to do with Silence of the Lambs. So there you go.
You were maybe thinking of Manhunter though, Chris. I mean, you were kind of aye.
Yeah. Possibly.
There was maybe something ticking away at the back of your head there. So that
We're doing well here, by the way.
At this point, I'm just glad that Drew is my teammate in this quiz.
These are really good, though. That was a sneaky one, Thomas. That was a sneaky one.
Cheers, Drew.
We could have went either way there.
If you think that was sneaky, you're going to enjoy the next round a lot because it's poetry, and I can tell you two are guys that are right into your rhyming.
We've done well so far, but this is where it probably ends.
This is where it falls apart.
Nah. Believe in yourself, lads. Right, poetry. Which animal is described in a poem by Robert Burns as a wee, sleeky, cowering, timorous beastie?
Gosh. Lord. Well,
right.
I don't know that.
I'm not. I'm going to confess. I don't really know. I'm not big on my Robert Burns poetry, so I don't know the answer to this. But I'm just thinking of what So it's a wee sleek cowering timorous beastie.
Yeah, by a process of elimination, right? So it's small.
Yeah, small, and it's something that could be described as a beastie. So it's got to be kind of
and timorous, so kind of maybe a wee bit sort of shy and kind of, I don't know. And to be round in the time of Rabbie Burns, it's got to be like something like, I don't know.
It's rodent or something, or some kind of rodent.
It's not a cat or a dog if it's wee.
No, I don't think we'd describe it as a beastie if it was a dog or a cat or something like that. It must be something kind of like something that people are kind of, maybe some people are frightened of or something. Or
there you go. There you go. So I was going to say it's can't be a dog. So what's that? A mouse then?
We'll go with mouse. Mouse is what that screams out to me, because I would say that's what the kind of description makes me think.
Yeah, let's do that. I'm hopeless at Robert Burns, shamefully so, but shall we go with that? Let's go with that. A mouse, Thomas.
Go for it.
A mouse. All right. Well, I've never said it was right.
I'm jumping the gun here.
Camden. Beastie is one of the great Scots words that could mean anything. You know, if somebody says, "Oh, I just saw a beastie," and it could mean anything from a spider to a beetle to a, in this case, mouse. You're absolutely right. Robert Burns was writing about a mouse in his famous poem "To a Mouse."
Do you know it could have been a kind of insect though? I never thought it like a spider or something.
That's what bairns mean when they say beastie now. You know, if your son or your daughter comes running in and says, "Oh, I saw a beastie," they mean something they found under a rock, didn't they?
Of course. Oh, there you go. Well, we went the right way, Chris. We jumped the right way there. Excellent.
Thank goodness.
So where are we? Are we 4 out of 4 here so far?
4 out of 4, aye.
Check it out.
This is where the run ends. Because this is a hard one. This is a hard one. This is your last, second and final poetry question.
Thank goodness. That's a strong point.
Which disaster is the subject of a poem by Dundee's William McGonagall, who has been widely acclaimed as the worst poet in history?
Oh.
I'm just going to put out there, I've never heard of William McGonagall ever. So
a disaster. A disaster. So that could mean natural disasters. That could mean sort of maybe accidental things.
Did you say he was from Dundee?
So Dundee.
Could there be any kind of Dundee connection? I don't really. I can't think of any disaster related to Dundee.
So how about? So I mean, any idea? No, I'm not. I was going to ask about time frames there.
Yeah.
Thomas, that would be sneaky of me and probably cheeky of me. That would be cheeky. So what do you think, Chris? If he's the worst poet, that's got to be a 20th century thing.
I think
it's got to be, hasn't
so.
it?
Yeah.
Disasters in the 20th century.
I fancy looking it up just for the fact he's described as the worst poet ever.
Once we're done, you absolutely need to read the poem, by the way. It is genius in the worst and best possible way.
Oh, fantastic. That sounds really intriguing. That makes me, want to go.
I want to look up afterwards, but I have no idea.
Okay,
Dundee,
so
what's famous about Dundee?
The Bruins, the Sunday Post. I don't know. So disasters, Titanic. That's kind of comes into my mind. The sinking of the Titanic. What other things did we have? There was.
I'm on to throw weight behind the Titanic because my son's obsessed with the Titanic at the moment, so I'm quite happy for us to go with that.
Aye. Let's do that, because in the absence of anything else, we want to. I know. Well, we say that. We'll say Titanic.
Yeah, the Titanic. There we go.
That is interesting because William McGonagall wrote loads of poems about sad things happening. It was his wee métier. And you were on the right track, Chris, when you were talking about something Dundee related, because the one I'm thinking of, the one that he's most famous for, is a poem about the Tay Bridge disaster.
Ah, right, okay, and there you go. Obviously,
definitely worth reading.
But he's got a reputation as being the worst poet
in the world ever.
In the world,
really? I'm surprised you haven't heard him. He's somebody we're all proud of in the poetry world.
Do you know why he's regarded as the worst?
Read the poem, Chris, and you'll get why he's regarded as the worst.
There's the thing, you're sending everyone the Google hits for William McGonagall. After this podcast goes out, are going to be huge.
I wish I'd printed one of his poems out so I could read you a wee bit, but honestly, you're missing out if you've not read any William McGonagall yet.
Brilliant.
All right, so that's
4
out of 5. That's still.
That's all right, eh?
We're
That's
never
all
going to
right.
get a perfect score, let's face
No.
it, Drew, are we?
No.
I got a
As soon,
few
as, soon
right.
as soon as Thomas said the word poetry, we were never getting a perfect score.
No, I don't know if there's anybody out there who's got 5 out of 5 yet. I'll be very surprised if there's anybody that's beaten you, but you never know. You never
But
know.
well- and well
Let us
done
know
if
on
you
social
have.
media if
Yeah.
you are.
Aye, well done if you have. Exactly.
We should maybe get them on a quiz podcast in the future if that's the case.
Absolutely.
All right, so round 4 is Scottish literature.
Okay.
Okay.
The first question is, born in Cardenden, Fife, which Scottish crime writer is best known for their Inspector Rebus novels?
That's a nice easy one.
Go. There you go.
Yeah.
That's good, because we kind of touched on that earlier when we talked about Liam McIlvanney, didn't we? When this person's written a book in conjunction with them fairly recently, which we have in our library just now. I've actually just walked past it 10 minutes or so ago. We've got loads of them sitting on our table at the door. So I am going to say Ian Rankin for that one. Chris, what do you think?
And I am 100% behind you on that one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Then you're 100% right. And
Yes.
the Ian Rankin book you're talking about is The Dark Remains.
Yes.
That's the one.
Yes.
Aye.
That's been a really popular one over the last kind of few weeks. Certainly in our library here, it's I think just that the marriage of two sort of heavyweight sort of names, you know, that's enough just to sell itself. But it's been really popular, and the feedback on it has been really, really sort of positive as well. So
it's the same here. It's, you know, you see the two names on a book and it catches your eye, like you're saying. You walk past and you can't look at a book that's by Ian Rankin and William McIlvanney. So yeah, the absolutely right answer is Ian Rankin.
Brilliant.
That's it.
Brilliant.
Next question about Scottish literature. Which Scottish school teacher is played by Maggie Smith in the film of Muriel Sparks' novel?
I'm drawing a blank on this one, Drew. I've no idea.
Oh, really, Chris? So I'll give you a bit of context to this. Our new tricks group in the library here in Airdrie, quite often we have film screenings, and this author, Muriel Spark, celebrated a big anniversary maybe a year or two ago.
Yeah.
I can't recall exactly what the anniversary was, but there was the Book Trust had gifted all of our libraries with collections of the entirety of Muriel Spark's works.
I think they gifted it to the whole Scotland. I think
every library and every authority. Yeah. So if you go around any of our libraries in North Lanarkshire at the moment, they've got really, really extensive Muriel Spark collections, and this is because of that. But this particular film, as part of our new tricks sessions that year, a couple of years back, we showed this particular film here in the library, and they absolutely loved it. And I'm going to say that it is Miss Jean Brodie for Maggie Smith, that's the reason I know this, because we showed this film here in the library recently for our new tricks group. So what do you think, Chris?
I have absolutely no idea, so yeah, I'm quite happy to go with that as well.
Well, there's no point in trying to build up suspense because you're very confident, Drew, and you're absolutely right. It is Miss Jean Brodie.
Brilliant.
From the book, The Prime, the Mrs. Jean Brodie.
Yeah, she was very young in that, Thomas, Maggie Smith. I think it was a 60s thing or something like that. She was very kind of...
I think so, but she hadn't actually changed that much over the years. I mean, I know she looks a bit older, but no much older considering.
Because you can it's literally a straight line. She could be Jean Brodie in one scene and Professor McGonagall from Harry Potter in the next one. You know, it's exactly the same. But it was fantastic, and the new tricks group absolutely loved it. That was one of their kind of favourite film screenings. Yeah,
aye,
definitely. Brilliant.
Brought back a lot of memories.
Yeah, well, I think so. I think there was a lot of kind of reminiscing about, you know, school at that particular time and stuff like that. So it was a real sort of conversation starter as well. It was excellent. It was one they do talk about a lot. So that's the only reason I know that, because it wasn't a film that I'd came across myself, but until we had to screen it. But it was excellent. So excellent.
Aye. Well, worth getting the book out for your expansive collection of Muriel Sparks in the Airdrie Library, Drew, because it is a great book and a great film. All right, so that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 out of 8. Next question, still in Scottish literature. Which comic strip family were created by Dudley D. Watkins?
Ooh. Right, so it's a comic book. So who are famous Scottish comic books? So you mentioned the Bruins earlier. That's that could be one.
But you know, the Dandy and the Beano and all that they're Dundee as well, are they not? DC Thompson. So, and there's kind of families within them, and our Willie's that as well. Oh, maybe he's trying to trick us again, Chris.
I know
Maybe it's one of the ones.
that's a difficult one because you know like I've never thought about all these things for so long. I remember getting like buying Beano comics whenever I was wee, and I don't think I've ever kind of seen one. I do they even still do them? I don't know.
I think they're online now. In the print editions kind of stopped, but I think they're online now, so you can still find these things. But that's quite a tricky one. So you used the word family there, Thomas.
Aye,
Family.
that's right.
I don't know, Chris. Is it kind of random enough though that I don't know families within the Beano or the Dandy or anything like that? Is the safe bet saying the Bruins? I don't know. Or Willie, I don't know. That wasn't necessarily a family sort of thing.
Aye. I think the fact that the Bruins sounds like as if it would be a kind of family, like that's obviously a family, so that kind of maybe is where the question's leading to.
Yeah, let's go with that then, eh?
Yeah, go for that. Right,
We're
going with the Bruins.
Absolutely right. The Bruins is spot on. Good bit of background knowledge about Dundee being the home of so many Scottish and British comics, like the statue of Desperate Dan in Dundee and whatnot. But it's the Bruins in particular I was thinking of this time.
Brilliant. Oh, that's really good. What was the guy's name there? Sorry,
Dudley D. Watkins.
There you go. There you go. That's a new one. I'd never heard of that before. Brilliant.
Everybody's heard of the Bruins. Nobody's heard of Dudley D. Watkins.
Yeah. Brilliant.
It's funny because you get to know the cartoon characters so well, but not so much necessarily the people behind them.
Yeah.
Absolutely right.
And of course, the annual's still out. It's still a big hit every year, and every year we sort of buy it for the libraries as well. That the Bruins annual or the Willie annual at Christmas, and people still like to read them.
My mum still gets me the Bruins and the Year Willie annual every Christmas, and I'm not going to pretend I don't read them. I absolutely do.
Brilliant. Oh, fantastic.
All righty, this is the last question on Scottish literature. Since 2004, Scotland has had 4 Mackers, or national poets. Can you name any one of the 4 Mackers?
Oh, good question.
I'm going to say I think I know one, Drew.
Do you?
I feel quite confident in this one because I'm pretty sure one of them visited Motherwell Library.
Yes.
At one point.
Yes, I was going to say that exactly same thing. And well, if you're thinking of that person, I've got another name then as well. So fairly confident, Thomas, we might be able to say 2 of them.
2, at least 2.
Wow, all right.
I'm going to say Liz Lockhead.
Yes, good one.
I think she was from Newt Hill or something like that, I'm sure. I'm sure
right.
there's a local connection to Lanarkshire somehow.
Yeah,
with Liz Lockhead.
She visited Motherwell Library a few years back, didn't she? That's right.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm going to say Jackie Kay then as well.
That was the other one that was coming to mind for me because I thought that was the 2 that I could think of. I was definitely confident about Liz Lockhead. I thought Jackie Kay may have been another option.
Yeah. So I think I'm not sure in what order they came in, but we're fairly certain both of those were the Macker at some point.
Yeah.
So we'll go for both of them.
Yeah. Do we get a bonus point if we get 2 out of the 4?
Well, that was good background knowledge for Chris about Liz Lockhead being local to North Lanarkshire, which of course she is, and she was the second of the 4 Mackers. Jackie Kay, you're right, Drew, was the third of the 4 Mackers. The first June, way back at the Reformation of the Scottish Parliament, was Edwin Morgan, and the final June, who was only just recently appointed, and therefore it's no huge surprise that you wouldn't know who it is. It's Kathleen Jamie, and she's the current person.
All right, okay.
That's brilliant, well done.
Oh, excellent. That was good. Edwin Morgan, yes, because he was the poet, wasn't he, Edwin Morgan?
That's right, aye.
I remember that, but Liz Lockhead, definitely. I remember that one, as Chris says, because she came to us one year and it was a really good event in Motherwell.
Yeah. Aye. And I think I remember we billed it as being like she had I don't know, I can't remember if she was the Macker at the time or whether it was she previously had been, but I remember we mentioned that in the promo for it.
Yeah, that's right. Fantastic. That's really good. That was a good one.
That would have definitely been worth seeing.
Brilliant.
All right, so we're moving on now from Scottish literature to world literature. I've got a couple of questions for you about world literature.
Oh goodness.
We're doing well, Chris. We're doing well.
We're doing brilliant. You're doing absolutely brilliant.
Yeah.
First question on world literature. Whose adventures were chronicled by the Belgian cartoonist Georges Remy? Whose adventures were chronicled by the Belgian cartoonist Georges Remy?
Oh.
Adventures.
So Belgian. I'm kind of immediately going to say Tintin, but that was Hergé, and I don't know if Hergé was a sort of pen name for Georges Remy.
It could be.
If it was Belgian, but the Adventures of Tintin might be that.
Yeah, the adventures part of the question kind of makes you think that. I'm trying to think of any other kind of big kind of cartoon thing.
Georges Remy, because I remember being on holiday in Brussels and kind of Tintin was everywhere, but it was Hergé's the kind of and I know that's obviously a pen name, but I don't know if Georges Remy was the author's actual name. What do you think?
I'm happy to go with that. Adventures of Tintin sounds like a good answer to me, so
yeah, we'll say Tintin then, Thomas.
Spot on, absolutely right. Georges Remy's pen name was Hergé, and he did write The Adventures of Tintin, so that is bang on.
Oh, excellent. Hey. That was a shot in the dark, that one. Fantastic. Oh, that was really good.
Right, you've only got one more world literature question to answer, you'll be pleased to hear, and that's
plenty.
And the last one is, who collectively are Athos, Porthos, and Aramis?
Brilliant.
I actually had the thought in my head of the Three Amigos, but I think that's a Steve Martin film, so I don't think that's right.
You're nearly there, though. We're nearly there. Because there was, I'm thinking of that cartoon when I was a boy, and it was of that. But there's been various films of it as well, hasn't there?
Is that the D'Artagnan thing?
See, we're the same age, Chris. You can tell. You can tell we grew up in the 80s. Well, Musketeers, hey?
Yeah, must be the Three Musketeers, not Steve Martin and Chevy Chase and the other one that I can't remember.
The Three Amigos. Well, we say the Musketeers, Thomas, the Three Musketeers.
You sure you don't want to go for Muskehounds?
Oh, there you go. That was the cartoon.
But you're totally bang on. It's the Three Musketeers who were Athos, Porthos, and Aramis.
Brilliant. Oh, fantastic. That was a really good one. That was, can you remember the author? I always get this one mixed up. Wasn't Daniel Defoe? That was, I can't remember the author of the Musketeers. It was something like that, wasn't it?
Alexandre Dumas.
Dumas, that's right. There you go. I always get that one mixed up. Fantastic. Just swashbuckling adventure.
Absolutely brilliant. Film was not so great, but D'Artagnan was in the Three Muskehounds was brilliant.
And what a theme tune as well. We're not going to torture the listeners by singing it, but it was look it up. It's on YouTube. It's fabulous.
We don't want to do that.
All right. So kind of related, we now move on to children's books, which is our third last category. Children's books. Exactly. How old was Adrian Mull when he wrote the first of his secret diaries in 1982?
Oh, no.
This is one of these ones that's got a fraction in the title.
But you know, Chris, there was a whole series of those books.
And of all the different fractions.
And several of them probably did. Oh, no. Now, oh, gosh, I don't know. Is it like, it's like 8 1/4 or something, or is it higher than that? That's such a tough one. Is it 13? It's not quite as young as 8 1/4. I don't know. They were really big books at the time as well.
I was thinking like 7 1/2, but I don't know if that's a complete utter guess. I just know there's the quarter or the half or the 3/4 or something in there.
Yeah, they were really, really good books. The whole series, wasn't there? And then it followed him all the way through his life. It was really quite innovative as well. It was like, from a child all the way through adulthood to kind of fatherhood and beyond and all of that type of thing. They were excellent books. I don't know, Chris, a quarter, will we settle on the fraction and then we'll just pick an age? Quarter? A quarter?
I think a half seems to like in the middle.
A half's more specific than a quarter.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
So we'll go for we'll go for a quarter.
Right. And what kind of age? Anything between I don't know. So if you think what's good content at what age would be, because they were quite kind of comic and funny, those novels. So what's good? Teenage.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, 14. What do you think? Something like that.
Yeah, let's go with that.
14 and a quarter.
14 and a quarter.
14 and a quarter, Tom.
That's your final answer, is it?
Aye.
Maybe. Yeah, go for it.
These are only out by 6 months. The first was The Secret Diary of Adrian Mull, aged 13 and 3/4.
Oh, there you go. Nearly. Oh, that was close, by the way. But
very close.
You said exactly.
Half a mark for that, really. Or 3/4 of a mark.
There you go. Brilliant. That was hard. That
was a really good guess, and like you say, there were a lot of the books following him throughout his life, and they were really moving, touching books towards the end. Actually, no purely funny ones. It's a great series. But 13 and 3/4 was when Adrian Mull first put pen to paper.
There you go.
All right. Second and last children's literature question: who collectively were Julian, Dick, Anne, George, and Timmy?
Now, I don't know this, Chris, but I'm going to say they were Enid Blyton, right? Yeah. But I don't know, because there was different sort of series of Enid Blyton.
Yeah.
So
how many names was there, Tom? That may help.
There was Julian, Dick, Anne, George, and Timmy.
So that's 5.
There you go.
There is a famous 5 in Enid Blyton's series. So
yes.
Are we going to go with Enid Blyton's famous 5?
That's a really good process of kind of thought there, Chris. Yes, we are. We're going to go with the famous 5, Thomas.
Well, you're absolutely right about the number of different Enid Blyton series there were, with various numbers of different members, like the Secret 7. And in fact, there was 2 that had 5 in it. There was the 5 Find Outers, and there was the famous 5. You guys are right. Timmy, George, Dick, Anne, and Julian were the famous 5.
That I would never have got the other ones. The 5 Find Outers.
5 Find Outers.
Oh my!
I don't think I've heard of that one.
No, that's a new one on me too.
Yeah.
You have to have worked in a school library to know all the Enid Blyton books, Chris. I know every single last one. Faraway Tree, the whole jingle. It's never went out of fashion. Never stopped being popular, I have to say.
No, I've got a really good Enid Blyton story. We were clearing out our basement in Airdrie Library, and there was a load of old books. And one of them we happened to open, and there was a handwritten index on the front page, and it said, page 5, letter to the library from Enid Blyton.
Wow.
And we kind of hurriedly flicked through to page 5, and of course the letter wasn't there. But we turned over to page 6, and inside a wee sleeve on page 6 was the envelope that she had sent the letter in, and it was addressed to the library, and it was in her handwriting, and it was the postmark was Little Winging, was where Enid Blyton actually lived. And I was telling my colleague, who's now retired, who was our local studies historian up there, about it, and he said, I know all about this letter, and went to a book in the archive and produced it, and the letter had been found years before, and it was in the archive. It was fantastic. She wrote to the library in the 1950s, and it was about a display that we had done about Noddy in the 1950s. So she'd written a letter, and it's kept in the archives here in Airdrie. So there you go.
Still there. That's amazing.
Still there. It's a fabulous.
You had your very own mystery that you solved.
Yes, there you go. I don't know what I would be, but I could be part of that.
The librarian one.
Aye. So there you go. That's a good one.
All right, so 2 more sections. Classics is the next one.
Okay.
And the first question for the classic section is, which Emily Bronte novel was the inspiration for a song by Kate Bush?
Right,
which Emily Bronte novel was the inspiration for a song by Kate Bush?
I think you seem like a kind of classics kind of person, Drew.
Yeah.
I'm not so much of a classics person. I'm waiting for the kind of
well,
more modern fiction.
Well, I was going to say, Chris, what I will say, if it was any other Emily Bronte book, Thomas, other than the Kate Bush one, I was completely out, because that's the only one I can do for you. Do you remember Kate Bush was fabulous, and that was a massive album in the kind of sort of as when I was a boy. I remember this Wuthering Heights. Not remember. It was really it's a fabulous album. Just what a singer as well. Wuthering Heights for that one, Thomas, because it's the only one I know, sadly, of Emily Bronte.
That's the only Emily Bronte novel that comes to mind for me either. So I think that would have to be my guess too.
Yeah.
Well, fortunately, that's the one that Coatbridge wrote a song about that everybody knows. Even if they don't know it, they know it as soon as they hear it.
Aye, what a brilliant tune. That's fabulous. Thank goodness you made that one, because we were all out if it was any other Emily Bronte one.
Well, that's good, because you're going to enjoy the next question, which is also about Emily Bronte.
Oh, well.
No, I'm joking.
Skip that one.
Question 2 for classics. Elizabeth Bennett is a character from which beloved and oft-filmed novel?
For classics. Oh, yeah. What's off-filmed then, Chris? There's
must be an Austen one, surely.
Oh, I didn't think of that actually. Yeah, I was away onto War and Peace or something there. But that's.
I may be wrong.
Well, so what's Jane Austen got? Emma. There is Mansfield, whatever it's called, Mansfield Park. There is Persuasion. There is, what's the other ones?
So not like I said, I'm not big on reading classic novels, but was there not one that was filmed with Natalie Portman? Was she not in one?
Yeah, Sense and Sensibility is that one. I get all of these ones mixed up. There was also Pride and Prejudice. There was also I don't know. It could be any one of those. What was the character again, Thomas?
Elizabeth Bennett.
Elizabeth Bennett. Do you know the only thing I'll say though on this one, Chris? My wife's a big fan of Jane Austen, and Pride and Prejudice is the one that stands out for me on that, because my wife likes that. So I would say Pride and Prejudice.
I'm willing to put faith in your wife's favourite novel.
Well, let's say that. We'll say Pride and Prejudice, Thomas, but with no confidence we're saying Pride and Prejudice.
And we can have words with her afterwards if she's
Aye.
Well, you should be confident, at least in your wife, because Elizabeth Bennett is indeed fake Pride and Prejudice.
Yes, brilliant. Now, that was a pure guess, that one, by the way. That was a total guess. Excellent. Brilliant.
All right, so we've got 1, 2, 3, 4 more questions left. Last in classics is, in which play by Shakespeare does the line "Alas, poor Yorick" appear?
Bit like Burns, I'm not massive on my knowledge of Shakespeare, so
yeah, that's the one. That's the one where he's holding the skull when he's doing the speech, so it's like a soliloquy, isn't it?
Is that Hamlet?
Ah, there you go. I always get Hamlet and Macbeth mixed up.
Or is it? No, now you're making me doubt myself as Macbeth.
Aye. Does your gut say Hamlet though?
When you said the skull thing,
aye,
that makes me think Hamlet. But
more than Macbeth, or more than anything other, like Julius Caesar or anything like that.
Yeah.
I don't know. Well, if your gut says Hamlet, will we go with Hamlet?
I can't think of the only one that I know fairly well is Romeo and Juliet, and I'm pretty sure that I can't remember that being part of that.
Aye. So will we go with Hamlet then?
Okay.
Right, we'll say Hamlet. Thomas.
All right. Well, you're absolutely right about the circumstances of the speech that is given by the main character to a skull. The skull of his former court jester, who was called Yorick, and the person who gives the speech is indeed Hamlet, Prince of Denmark. So you're absolutely right. The answer's Hamlet.
Oh, that was good. That was a process of elimination there as well. That was hard. I always get Hamlet and Macbeth mixed up. But there you go.
Everybody does.
One's the Prince of Denmark and one's Scottish.
That's right.
That's right, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay. Got you. Brilliant.
Well done, guys. All right, last but not least, modern literature. 3 questions to round off with.
Mm-hmm.
First question is, Robert Galbraith is the pseudonym of which writer?
Yeah, well, I know this one.
Do you?
Yeah.
Yeah. We'll go for it then.
Yeah. Robert Galbraith is none other than J.K. Rowling.
Oh, good one.
Robert Galbraith is none other than J.K. Rowling. You're
Yes.
absolutely right.
Well done, Chris. Well done. Is that the Cormoran Strike books,
That's the ones, yeah.
Thomas? Yes.
That's absolutely right. Aye, it's the detective novels.
Yeah. Yeah, those were really good. Those were really good. I don't think I've just heard really good things about them, they're very popular when we do have them in the library. I think the last one was Lethal White or something like that. There was a long waiting list for
I think
it.
the last one was Troubled Blood, I think it's called.
Was there one after that?
Yeah.
Aye.
And I think there's a new one coming out later this year as well.
Brilliant.
I believe.
Excellent. I'll keep an eye out for that.
I'm going to have to admit that I've never read any J.K. Rowling or Robert Galbraith apart from the Harry Potter books. So I don't know. I don't know what I'm missing, but for what you guys are saying, it sounds like I'm missing out something special.
Yeah.
What was the one that she released under J.K. Rowling that didn't do so well, or that wasn't so well received?
The first one was called The Casual Vacancy.
That's
Yeah.
right.
And it was as far removed from Harry Potter as you could get. It was about small town, village sort of politics and life and all of these sort of things. And that was under her own name. It was the first book after Harry Potter, wasn't it? That was excellent.
Right.
Brilliant.
Okay. So 3 more questions to bring us up to 20. Modern literature still. Which series of books, which has sold over 100 million copies worldwide, features as its protagonist Katniss Everdeen?
Dude, this is my category.
But Chris, I was about to say, I bow to you on this one. You know your onions here.
Tribute.
Very good.
The Hunger Games series.
It is the Hunger Games series, Chris.
Excellent.
You're right. Have you read them?
I love the Hunger Games books. I queued to get the third one when it came out, and things like that sort of stuff. In fact, actually, my wife and I both love the Hunger Games book, and we loved it so much that we bought 2 copies of the last one because on the night it came out, because we both wanted to read it so badly, we had to have a copy each. So there you go. And of course it's inspired loads of other kind of similar series as well, like Divergent and The Maze Runner and things like that sort of stuff that a lot of folk have kind of tried to kind of that same sort of dystopian YA fiction thing, and which they're also great series as well. But I don't think any of them touched the original, which is the Hunger Games, which amazing, fantastic.
Was there was a kind of companion book fairly recently, Chris, wasn't there? That was like a
I'm trying to think of what the name of that was now, but I can't off the top of my head. But there was one. I've not actually read that one, to be honest.
It was
but the original trilogy was fantastic.
Yeah.
The ballad of
something or other, and it was from the perspective of. Or it was a kind of more of a sort of exploration of the world, or the perspective of another sort of main character or something like that. But I never know the order of those books. I remember at the time you being very excited about them. As were a lot of people. I was just probably even too old and curmudgeonly at that point.
I try and claim responsibility for kind of introducing a lot of people to it over here, because I first came across it on Goodreads. It came up in my Goodreads suggestion thing because it was huge in America before it came here, the book, and I got a copy of it because it was rated so highly on there, and I've completely and utterly fell in love with it, and then told everybody who would actually listen to me, and probably bored people to death about how amazing it was, and championed it to practically everybody that I could speak to about the Hunger Games. But so it was an amazing one, and it was one of those ones that you just kind of stumbled across in a really kind of accidental way, and ended up, it was amazing, and then obviously it became an absolute global phenomenon. So
I've never read them because, having worked in a school library, they didn't stay on the shelves for long enough. It was just back away. I must have bought about 20 copies of each individual Hunger Games book just because they disappeared all the time.
Oh my goodness. How did you, at that time, Thomas, everybody was reading those books, weren't they? And did you find that with your pupils? They were all into it. How did you talk to them about it, though, if you never managed to kind of read it? How did you know what they were talking about?
Well, funnily enough, pupils are quite keen, and young people are quite keen to talk about themselves. So I just asked them questions about it as if I knew what I was talking about. And they were always, and I picked up what the stories were about just through long recitations of every single thing that happens in every single book. And obviously, once the films came out, then, you know, it was, you couldn't not know what Hunger Games was about. But the kids absolutely loved it. And it was right across the demographic. It wasn't just younger kids. It was seniors. It wasn't just girls. It was boys. It was everybody.
Yeah, I think it's one of those. I feel I think it's one of those series that kind of really captured sort of that kind of teenage audience, and in a similar way to kind of like the Twilight series did, and even maybe kind of sort of the older part of the Harry Potter books, which kind of started kind of verging into sort of YA territory, I would say. And they kind of really captured the kind of readers that of that age, and kind of they really passionately fell in love with the stories and the characters involved in them.
It was a golden age of YA writing at that time, wasn't there?
Yeah,
there was
definitely.
all of those series all happening at more or less at the same time. And if you were a young person at that point, you were spoiled for choice with all of this wonderful sort of writing, and then to see that again in turn on the big screen for a lot of these series as well, it's a fantastic time. It's a fantastic time.
Yeah, absolutely was. I think we're sticking with YA literature. A wee bit more off the beaten track though. Modern literature. Second last question. Holden Caulfield, an icon for teenage angst and rebellion, is a fictional character in which American literary classic?
Oh, I know this one, Chris. I know this one.
Okay.
Because this is quite a kind of famous, infamous book. But it's quite an older one now. Have you got any idea on this one, Chris? I think I know that though.
I have to admit, I don't know.
Holden Caulfield, Catcher in the Rye. It's a kind of famous sort of anti-hero and a sort of figure of teenage rebellion, and has been for generations as one of these characters that young people can kind of hook into and really, really relate to. So we'll say Catcher in the Rye.
Yeah, I've never read Catcher in the Rye. I'm one of these people who kind of came to reading quite late in life a bit, and fell in love with reading a bit later than most, and it's one of those things that I've always wanted to read. But you keep people hearing people saying that whenever they read The Catcher in the Rye later in life, it doesn't seem as and kind of impactful as you are when you're a teenager. So I don't know if I've missed the boat.
Yeah.
I'm sadly no longer anywhere near being a teenager.
I think that's a really interesting point, because that is the type of book that would split the generations. If you were a teenager and you read that book, it would be massively influential on you. But again, like if you're our side of teenagehood, i.e. nowhere near it, you would be like, all right, what is all the fuss about? Especially nowadays, because that book was maybe the 50s or something like that. I don't know. And a lot of the cultural references and all that kind of thing, we just wouldn't sort of, get on board with at this point in time. So I think at the time it was revolutionary. And that's obviously at the time when teenagers were becoming a cultural force themselves, So, but we'll say Catcher in the Rye, Thomas.
The Catcher in the Rye is the right answer. And it's been really interesting listening to you talk about The Catcher in the Rye as well, because I got made to read it at school, but I had a brilliant English teacher called Mr. Love, and he forced us to read it. And I don't know how many of the folk who read it went on to become great readers or to read many other books, but I know that everybody who read it in that higher English class back in 19... really, really had their worldview changed by it. And I can imagine reading it as an adult, as a fully fledged adult, is a different experience, but reading it as a 16-year-old, it was something special.
Wow, that's dead interesting. So you got at your peak moment to read that book, you did?
Absolutely right. Aye. That made up for the fact that he made us read 1984 as well. That was my peak moment for reading 1984.
No. I think that's a wonderful book. Again, similar, I get made to read that at school, and it was the same sort of experience. That's a wonderful book as well. But Catcher in the Rye is an interesting one. It's an interesting one.
Well, 1984 is kind of like the opposite. I don't think you can possibly appreciate it at 16, but when you're older and you realise you do really see. I recently reread it and I was like, this is astonishing. How did I not like this when I was a kid? Like, because I was a kid, that's why I didn't like it when I was a kid.
That's a really good point. That's a really good point. So, do you think that's a kind of thing, though? It depends when you read something, and depends when you sort of come to it, and at what point in your own life and what your own context is, whether you're going to enjoy things as much as you maybe should, or as much as you might at other points in your life. Do you think that's a kind of fair?
Oh, totally.
Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah, I
mean,
mean, definitely a thing.
all these books that used to get crammed down your throat as American, especially American classics that were about middle-aged men having midlife crises and all the rest. And you think, what's this guy's problem? He's got a great life, and as you get older, suddenly you think, oh wait, no, I kind of get this a wee bit now.
Brilliant.
It makes sense all of a sudden.
All righty, well, that's 18 out of 19 so far. He's got one more question left on modern literature. And that question is, which author is best known for his best-selling series of epic fantasy books, A Song of Ice and Fire?
I know this one too, Drew.
Oh, there you go, Chris. There you go.
It is George R.R. Martin.
It is absolutely George R.R.
Hey, excellent. Well, it's funny that George R.R. Martin and there's J.R.R. Tolkien.
I wonder what the R's stand for in both.
Aye, who broadly plough the same sort of thing. Aye, excellent. Well done, Chris. So that's Game of Thrones then?
Yeah.
That's Game of Thrones then. If either you read any of the Game of Thrones books, I'll hold my hands up. I love the TV show, but I haven't read any of the books.
I haven't read the books, however. I think my wife read the first one, and I think the it starts off quite close to the books, I think, but then I think it verges off a little bit as it goes on. But yeah, the TV show was out of this world as far as I'm concerned. That was my favourite TV show for a long time. So.
Aye. Do you know, I'm one of those persons. I've not read a word of them or watched a minute of the TV thing. I'm rubbish. I'm just rubbish. The TV thing, when it came onto my sort of radar, it was already 4 series deep, and I just think, I can't be bothered with that. But by all accounts, everyone, the whole world was a fan of that, and the books as well,
I think that's my problem a little bit with the books, because I saw so much of the TV show before. I kind of thinking maybe I should read the books, and then by that point I had kind of got too far into the story, and then it's like, is it really worth catching up? I don't know, and then stuff like that. So I have just never got quite got around to it, but I'm sure they're fantastic books.
Yeah.
I was absolutely the same, Chris. I started trying to read the very first one, and I just couldn't get past the imagery in my head of the TV series of this is what this character looks like, this is what this character talks like, this is what this character does, and it's just over. And plus, the books are a pretty big investment in time. So I'm sure they're great books. I know a few people who have read the whole series and say enough good things about it.
Yeah, absolutely. They're 10 out of 10 if you can get through them as well. In terms of time investment, as you say, Thomas, because they are mighty tomes. They are mighty tomes, but everyone I know that's read them absolutely raves about them. So I'm clearly missing out because I'm just rubbish. Not read either of them or watched any of the TV show.
What I think will be interesting though is, because I don't think he's finished writing the series, but obviously the TV series is finished. So will the books kind of differ from how the TV series ended and things like that, or will it continue on past the point of the TV series ended?
I hope they will differ from the way the TV series ended. I really hope so, because that was pretty impressive and dispiriting.
It's one of those, the TV show, I think a lot of TV shows suffer that, like whenever they get so successful, they kind of get to the point of like, how on earth are we going to end this? And then they totally bodge the ending, and it kind of leaves all the fans a bit dissatisfied with it all. So hopefully Mr. Martin will be able to fix that for the fans in the future whenever the next books come out.
Well, if there's ever a reason to read one of the books, then it would be to get a different ending for the one that we got in the TV series.
There you go.
Okay, guys, well, that's the end of the World Book Night quiz, and I'm delighted to say that our librarians got a stunning total of 19 out of 20. Well done.
Well done, us. Well done, Chris.
I'm just going to put it out there. I think the majority of those points came from Drew rather than myself. But
not at all. Until we got
to see that we worked as a team.
We surely did, until we got to the young adult stuff, and then I just tapped out, And can I just say, Chris, your deductive reasoning on the Enid Blyton question was the reason that we got that. You counted that there was 5 of them, and we went for it. I never even thought of that, so well done you. Well done you. We got there. We got there.
I think we did pretty well, Drew. I'm impressed with that.
I agree. I'm happy. That's a good afternoon's work.
I don't think there'll be many people out there that got 20 out of 20, but obviously if somebody did, we'd be delighted to hear from them.
We absolutely would.
Feel free to let us know your scores on our social media posts about this podcast episode. We'd love to hear if you actually took part and answered the questions yourself and how many you got right. And especially if you got 20 out of 20, because some of them were pretty tough. And
Yes.
I certainly wouldn't have got 19 out of 20 on my own. So
Same.
Yeah.
Well done, Chris. We'll do that again. You and I can do the quiz team again the next time we do a quiz. Fabulous. Well done,
Fantastic.
Thomas. They were excellent questions as well.
I'm super impressed. Super impressed and a bit disappointed that you did so well, but make it a bit harder next time.
I was going to say.
Well, before we finish up the podcast, I want to throw a wee book question out to you guys, because it is a book recommendation podcast normally. So what are you guys reading at the moment? And Drew, what are you flicking through at the moment while you're reading?
Well, we've got a lot of really good new books have come in over the last kind of few weeks here in Airdrie, Chris, but I've been catching up with one author in particular has really sort of caught me over the last few weeks, and it's an author called Janice Hallett, who's just written 2 books just now. The first book is wonderful. It's called The Appeal, and it sort of came out 2019, 2020, something like that. And in style, it's very, at least on the surface, it's very similar to Richard Osman's Thursday Murder Club series. These books were wonderful, but I'm not necessarily a fan of that sort of genre. But the Janice Hallett one is written in a series of emails and a series of text correspondences. So it's like an old sort of epistolatory novel from almost from the 19th century. And as you read these texts and emails, a very cosy sort of mystery unravels and becomes a much darker and much deeper sort of conspiracy within a small village and within a group of amateur dramatics players in particular. It's called The Appeal, and it's really, really good, and it's really, really different. And our second book has just come out there, and it's just arrived in our libraries over the last couple of weeks. It's called The Twyford Code. And it's something similar again. It's told through a series of correspondences, and it's a small mystery that gradually unravels into a much, much bigger one. So I would recommend any of those two for anybody out there. I'm not necessarily a fan of crime fiction, I should say, but those books really grabbed me because they are very, very different, but they are excellent. So anything by Janice Hallett.
I really like whenever kind of authors kind of break the traditional kind of way of writing a book a little bit and kind of do something a little bit different like that. So that sounds interesting. Yeah,
Definitely.
What about you, Thomas? What have you been reading recently?
So I've been reading a non-fiction book, which I think it was the last year or so it came out. It's called Why We Sleep by Matthew Walker, and it's a science book about the science of sleep and the evolutionary reasons for it and what it actually does for us physically and mentally. And in a lot, it's an absolutely fascinating book. And if you're ever tempted to skimp on sleep, and I know a lot of us are, then it's something you really need to read because it makes such a strong case for why sleep is important to us in the present and in the future, what it does for our bodies, what it does for them. I like reading, actually. You know, the things that it does for our mind that we don't even know it's doing. The way that sleep helps us to process trauma, the way that sleep helps us to remember. Actually, believe it or not, apparently sleep consolidates memories in your brain, and you remember a lot better after you've had a sleep than before you've had a sleep. And there's bits about nature and about, you know, how certain animals sleep, and it's absolutely fascinating. I know Why We Sleep doesn't sound like the most promising book title in the world, but honestly, brilliant book. Can't recommend it enough.
That sounds amazing.
It does sound quite fascinating, actually, about the various different things it affects and things like that. So that's good. I'm completely behind the time for this, but I'm currently reading Shuggy Bane because I have not had the chance to kind of actually read that as of yet. So I have literally just started that, and I'm looking forward to it. I've literally just started it, but it's already caught my attention. I can see 100% why it has been so successful and is so well received by everyone that has read it so far. So because obviously Young Mungo came out recently, and I thought I can't really read that one before reading the first one. So so I thought I know they're not a series, but I kind of feel as if you should just kind of read the big famous one first before kind of the follow up novel. So that's why I'm reading at the moment.
That was a stunning book, Shuggy Bane. Absolutely stunning, wasn't it? Yeah.
That's pretty much what everyone says about it. So I'm really looking forward to getting kind of further into it and kind of and finally actually getting around to it and seeing what all the fuss was about with it. So that should be good. Before we kind of finish up, we've got a few wee kind of service updates. Drew will be very happy to let us know that Chapel Hall Library is returning to its full-time hours after such a long time on reduced hours with the COVID restrictions and things like that. So we are going back to full-time hours there on Monday the 9th of May, is that correct, Drew?
Monday the 9th of May, yeah, back to the hours as they were before. So we're absolutely delighted with that. Absolutely delighted.
And those hours, for anyone who can't remember, because it has been such a long time, is Monday to Wednesday 10 till 5, Thursday 2 till 7, and Friday 10 till 2. So that is when the chapel will be available from Monday the 9th of May. So that's fantastic. And that's a bit of an exclusive reveal on the podcast as well, because we haven't actually announced that anywhere online yet. So that's quite a little scoop for anyone of the listeners from Chapel Hall, if you're from there. The other big thing we want to mention is that we did launch a poetry competition on World Poetry Day, and that poetry competition basically is to get your poem published on our Borrow Box service on National Poetry Day, which is in October. So you can go onto the website and go to www.culturenl.co.uk/poetry competition, and you can find out all about how to enter that. And the theme of the poems is stories, so it can really kind of open, and you can find your own way out how to kind of write a poem about that. And Thomas will be hosting some workshops about writing poetry at some point in the near future as well, if you're kind of needing a little bit of help to get started and sorted. So do watch out for those whenever we get the dates for them confirmed. And finally, we have just announced recently that we'll be celebrating the 60th anniversary of the library service being in New Mains. So it's not always been in the same location, but there has been a library in New Mains for the last 60 years. And the staff there really want to celebrate it and make a big deal about the fact that it's been there for so long. And they're putting together a fantastic fun day in June. But as part of that, they are looking for anyone who has used New Mains Library to submit their memory of using the library, and which will become a part of a big display that they're putting together. And if you want to submit a memory, you can do that by going to www.culturenl.co.uk/newmains60, and you can submit your memory online. So that's going to be a fab day for anyone associated with New Mains Library as well. If you have enjoyed this episode of the podcast, you can leave us some feedback using the hashtag FLB podcast, or by dropping us a wee email to librarypodcast@northland.gov.uk. But that's all for us just now, guys. Thank you, Drew and Thomas, for joining us, and thanks especially to Thomas for coming up with such a great quiz and putting Drew and I under the spotlight of their literary knowledge. So that'd be fantastic. So thank you, guys.
Thanks, Chris. Thanks, Thomas.
And that's all for us, guys. Bye-bye now.